Hey everybody, welcome to the video. If you're watching this, it's because you're interested in the Mazda RX7. Now I'm sure you're looking at the car I'm sitting in thinking that interior looks a little big to be an RX7, and you're right. It's actually a Mark IV Supra, but before I had the Supra, I did own a 93 RX7 for about 3 years. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about my experiences owning the car, driving the car, working on the car, and any little issues that I kind of saw or had while I was owning it. If you like what I'm doing, don't be afraid to, after you're done watching the video, hit the subscribe button, and that'll let me know that you like it, and I will keep making these videos. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start talking about the car. So any conversation that starts about an RX-7, you have to address the elephant in the room right away, and that's the rotary engine. People are fascinated by the rotary engine, and they're also scared to death of the rotary engine. You've heard of all of these horror stories of, how fragile the engine is. Any little thing goes wrong and you got to do a complete rebuild, and they're just a nightmare to have. And I'm going to tell you from personal experience, that is not the case. A lot of people that have problems with their rotary engines have them because they're not treating the engine right. The rotary engine is different from a piston engine, so you can't treat it like a piston engine. So if you follow these little rules that I have, you can actually run a rotary engine for a long time, and it'll be as reliable as any other engine. So rule number one, check your oil. The rotary engine actually burns oil like a two-stroke engine. In fact, there's 2 oil squirters that sit on top of the engine and feed oil into the engine. So what I would do is I would check my oil on the regular, probably about every 2 or 3 Phillips. I just pull the dipstick and give it a check. If that's something that you don't want to do, or there's what's called the oil metering pump, which sometimes goes bad, and what people will do is they'll remove that and they'll just run premix in with the gas. And what premix is it's just a 2-stroke oil. You can get it at any motorcycle store, and you just have to look online for how many gallons you put in. You just kind of mix in that much premix oil into the gas tank, and you'll never have an issue. Rule number 2. Now, this is a rule that I have with any car that has forced air induction. Get a boost gauge and get an O2 gauge. It'll tell you what's going on with your engine. It'll let you know if you have any problems that'll cause you to pull over right away. So with a piston engine, if you run lean, yes, you can damage your engine, but it's a lot more forgiving. A rotary engine, you start running lean, it gets hot, and you'll pop an apex seal. And if you blow an apex seal, you're looking at a rebuild. So for not too much, you can go ahead and either get 2 gauges and put them on the A-pillar, or you can get, like, I have the Innovate SCG1 is actually a boost gauge and an O2 gauge and a boost controller all in one. And it'll get you the information you need to make sure that you're running within spec and not damaging your engine. Rule number 3, always warm up your car before you get into boost. The rotary engine has on the side of the rotors these what they call side seals. They're also kind of like a water seal. If your engine is not up to operating temp before you get into boost, you can actually damage those seals and you'll start leaking coolant into the chamber. It's actually a good idea to do this with any real performance car anyways. You start boosting too early, things aren't warmed up, your fuel trims aren't where they're supposed to be. So no matter which car you're really running, but particularly with the RX-7, drive it around, get it up to operating temp before you start getting into the boost. Rule 4. Now this is the rule that most people don't expect. You actually need to high rev your engine. There's a saying in the rotary community, which is a red line a day keeps the mechanic away. And that's actually true. So the rotary engine actually functions better when you get that sucker really spinning up, because it's going to force out all the deposits and all the gunk out of that's built up in either the intake runners or the exhaust manifold, and sometimes even some deposits within the, we'll call them cylinders, even though they're rotor housings. And just, getting up to a red line helps blow all that clear, keeps everything nice and clear so you don't scratch the chrome that's inside the rotor housings. Now, I'm not saying you should go and just redline your car all day long, blow the doors off of everybody. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend that per se, although the car can do it. But, if you got to get on the freeway, have a little fun with it. It's not going to hurt the engine. In fact, it's actually better for the car. Working on the engine. This was one of the nice things about the RX-7 is there is a lot of space in that engine. anywhere you need to work on. Things come off super easy. If you have to get deeper in the engine, all I have to do is take off the intake manifold, which literally sits right on top of the engine. It's a couple of bolts. So I didn't really have too many problems, you know, just trying to get things off and onto the engine. The only time I had to get a little trick is when I changed out my turbo. I had to kind of jack up the engine on, I believe it was the passenger side, just so the turbo and the manifold would clear the fender, just to get it off and on. But other than that, the car was super easy to work on. I didn't really have too many headaches with it. So if you're your own wrench, this is a great car to own. So now I'm going to talk about the transmission. Now that we've pretty much shown that, you know, the rotary engine isn't as scary as some people think it is, the RX-7 actually is known to have a transmission issue, and that is the famous fifth gear synchro grind. It usually happens when people are hard shifting the transmission and generally abusing it and not clutching properly. So this is known to happen. So if you're going to pick up an RX-7, make sure you test drive it, make sure the transmission oil is warmed up, and get into fifth gear, or make sure that there's no fifth gear synchro grind. However, that being said, even if there is fifth gear synchro grind, doesn't necessarily mean it's a deal breaker. Replacing the fifth gear synchro is not that hard. In fact, some shops even know how to replace the fifth gear synchro without even taking the transmission out of the car. The parts are easy to get, so it's not super expensive. So if you pick up a car that has the fifth gear synchro grind, or if it actually develops the fifth gear synchro grind, you're not looking at picking up a whole new transmission or, you know, mass amounts of headaches and labor to get that all fixed up. Most people that are familiar with the rotary engine and the RX-7, they're actually able to fix that because it's a common issue. So just be aware that it's there. You can maybe use it in negotiation if you're looking to buy one, but it's not necessarily a deal breaker. Now I'm going to talk about actually one of my favorite aspects of the car, the interior. I absolutely love the way the interior on the car is designed. It's got that cool wraparound dash, gives you that kind of airplane cockpit feel. It's nice and tight and compressed. Everything's exactly where you would want it to be within easy reach. It's just an absolutely gorgeous interior. That being said, there are some downsides to the interior. The plastics on the dash are paper thin and they break real easily. Mazda claims that this was done to reduce weight. I think they were just being cheap because the car weighs almost nothing anyways. So if the car's getting up there in age, especially if it's been parked out where there's a lot of heat, those parts are going to be getting very brittle and they're more than likely going to break. There's a couple places in particular that the interior plastics will break. One is actually the passenger side door handle that the passenger will use to close the door is actually made of hollow plastic. And there's not an RX-7 that I've come across where that handle isn't already broken and repaired or about to go. Fortunately, there is a company, I believe it's Saki Bomb Garage. They actually make a full aluminum replacement for that passenger side door handle. So I recommend anybody, if you're going to get one, just order up that handle right now, get it swapped out. It takes a few minutes, and then you don't have to worry about that particular piece breaking. Another piece that's known to break on the regular is there's a map pocket on the driver's side door. There again, the lid on it is paper thin plastic, and most people rest their elbow there naturally, so most of them are broken. There again, there's a company, I can't remember if it was Saki Bomb Garage or another company called Bubble something or other that makes an aluminum replacement for that. So even if it is broken or starting to crack, you can actually get a replacement for that. So that's kind of cool. There's enough aftermarket stuff out there to replace, you know, pieces that start to go bad. Cool thing about the interior on the RX-7 is even though it is small, they did give you storage. So behind each of the seats, there's actually a bin that you can put stuff in. So you got some extra storage there. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about the trunk with the interior because, you know, it's a hatchback. So, you know, the trunk is kind of part of the interior. And I'm going to let you know it is small. If you have anything more than maybe 2 or 3 backpacks, it's really not going to fit. So if you're somebody who has a lifestyle where you're constantly carrying around a lot of gear or a lot of stuff and taking a passenger with you, this is probably not a car you're going to want to daily drive. Okay, so the exterior of the car is a another thing I just absolutely love about the RX-7. And let's be honest, you take a look at it, it looks like the Viper hooked up with the Miata, and this is the bastard stepchild that came out. It's got the overall kind of roundness and body shape of the Viper, but it looks like somebody like put it in the dryer for too long. But then it's kind of got that, you know, smiley front end that the Miata has, so it kind of shoots it off towards the Mazda side. Now, if you're like me and you thought that the front end looks just a little too tame for your preference, in '99 Mazda did a refresh on the RX-7, and the cool thing is all the updates they made to the exterior are a direct bolt over to the old one. Unfortunately, we only got the car, I believe, through 94 or 95, and the car ran till I believe 2002. So if you want to get like the 99 spec parts, you're going to have to either get them out of Australia or Japan. And the changes they made were definitely nice changes. So the nose cone, a little bit more aggressive, looks a little bit less like a Miata. The rear wing, which I actually got from my car back in the day, is actually adjustable. So you can adjust your downforce based on it. It sits a little bit higher, unlike the stock wing, which is just a flat, kind of almost like air spoiler. And then the other change was the rear taillights. So the older style taillights just kind of look like, you know, like a red and yellow block inside of the taillight housing, where the 99 spec came with nice individual round lights. So if you like to kind of customize your car a little bit, those were my favorites to do. I never actually got around to doing the nose cone on mine when I had it, which is kind of a sore spot for me. I really wanted to do that, but you know, it's how life goes. The other modification I would make to the exterior of the car is get a hood that has vents on it. Doesn't necessarily have to be carbon fiber. I like carbon fiber, but that engine bay gets super hot, and the coils actually sit on top of the block under the intake plenum, so they get cooked. So anything you can do to get the heat out of that engine bay is a good thing for that engine. So you can see my hood, I kind of like it. It's got a lot of vents, gets everything out. Plus, if you're running a V-mount intercooler, the vents on the hood that I have kind of help direct the air out of the engine bay after it passes the V-mount intercooler. Now to talk about the thing that everybody's wondering and why you're looking at the cars. What is it like to drive the car as a daily driver? And I gotta tell you, it is a fun car to drive. This is a car I would definitely own again if I didn't have to, you know, haul stuff around, or I wasn't married and had someone I constantly had to carry with me. This sucker weighs nothing, and the suspension is set up in such a way that even on stock suspension, it corners like a motorcycle. I remember going around corners, I would say like warning 25, 35, I'd take them at 40, 45 and not even think twice. That sucker just glues itself to the road. All you need is, you know, a couple of good tires and you're ready to go. Being stuck in traffic, not that big of a deal. I mean, I'm used to driving stick in traffic anyways. There's enough clutches out there that you don't have to have a heavy on-off clutch to drive for the power you're going for. Plus, with an RX-7, you actually don't want high power. If you're looking to do impressive numbers in the quarter mile, the RX-7 is not the car for you. You're going to want a car that's probably a little heavier with, you know, a bigger engine. You can run bigger boost. But if you're looking to have some fun on the twisties, it's really a difficult car to beat. In fact, one time I was working on Criminal Minds, and we were shooting up in Santa Clarita, and we were way up in the canyons. I decided, like, I'm going to have some fun. And I literally came up on an Audi R8, and I passed him, and I heard his engine just, like, wind up. And I thought, uh-oh. So I started pushing it, and I was actually pulling away from the Audi R8. Now, I don't know if it was because it was my car or because of the drivers. Let's say it was the car. So you have so much extra room in the lane because it's such a small car. The car is built for cornering, that when you get those heavier cars, they have to brake sooner. They can't go around the corners fast. It's just, like I said, it was an amazingly fun car to drive, and I would definitely do it again. So basically, in less unless you're carrying around a lot of gear and having to take one person or more, because you know it is a two-seater, you can daily drive the car. So that was my experience with the RX-7. I think it's a totally fun car that I would definitely own again. If it's a car you're considering buying, go find a couple, test drive them. I can guarantee you're going to have a boatload of fun with this car. So if there are any questions you have about the car that I didn't answer in the video, go ahead and post them down below. I will answer your questions if I can. If you have any ideas or constructive comments about how I make my videos, go ahead and post those as well. I am definitely open to suggestions on how I can make it better. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because I'm going to keep making these videos. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all out on the road.